Facebook Live. Good evening, everybody. I am Tamara Johnson-Shealey, candidate for Senate District 40, and I'm hanging out with my friend David. Hi, David.
Hi, Tamara.
You guys know David. And our friend Samson.
Good evening.
Good evening. Let's make sure that people can hear us. If you can hear us, make sure give me a little shout out and let me know you can hear. We are testing some brand new equipment with our broadcast. We got a nice new camera. We got a brand new microphone. So just let us know that you can actually hear us, and you're going to be able to engage with us tonight. You can leave us some comments on the screen. And, me and my friend David, we always talk about race, racism, and race relations.
Right.
Always interesting. My friend Samson is a community activist. He joined me last week on our broadcast, and we talked about bridging the Black and white divide. And we focused on economics, politics, and community. So Samson's feed was a little choppy last time, and I know it was so choppy. So we want to make sure that tonight you're actually able to hear from him and know more about this initiative that's happening in South Dekalb. And we're going to talk very candidly about what's going on with this North and South Dekalb divide. And David lives actually smack in the middle of it all. So we'll get his feedback and figure it all out, right? I don't know if we have answers or solutions, but you know what? We have great conversation about it. So Samson, you want to tell everybody who you are? And
my name is Samsom Burrell, and I am the president of South Dekalb Community Alliance. What is South Dekalb Community Alliance? South Dekalb Community Alliance is a voice in South Dekalb, which was formed by a group of people, concerned residents, who said, enough. We want our voices heard. We are displeased with how the local government is ran. We want the proper service, and we want to be heard. And that has been something that has been said in South Dekalb 5 years, 10 years, 15 years, 20 years. Well, now that voice is going to come to the forefront. And on March 24th, 2018, we are going to be having a county-wide meeting at Pine Lake Baptist Church. The address will be posted on our Facebook page.
Tell them your Facebook page. They do have a Facebook page.
South Dekalb Community Alliance. So please go to the page, like it. But the address will be posted on there. There will be posts throughout the city, in the newspaper, and flyers, because we want people to come out. And we want the residents of South Dekalb, or DeKalb County overall, to know that there is a voice now in the county, and we're going to address every issue, not some, every issue of the county. And our goal is, by the end of 2018, we will have turned the page in South Dekalb and say, hey, we're ready to do business.
You see? Samson's he's always on fire, always. David, what's been going on, David?
Well, I've been teaching my class, What is White Privilege?
Oh, yeah. David has a class over at Emory.
At Emory Continuing Ed, at the Executive Park offices. And it's been going very well. I don't want to go into a whole lot here, but it's a look at white race privilege from a radically different perspective than is usually than the usual assumptions that are made about privilege. And we've talked about a lot here about those perspectives. So that's what's going on.
Yeah, so good stuff. You? Good stuff. So hey, I'm running strong. This race to the Georgia State Senate is it's a race. So I'm running strong and engaging with my constituents and really focusing in the district. So that's what's going on with me. And I invited Mr. Samson to come out and talk along with me and my friend David. Because there's this divide that between North and South DeKalb. And I lived in the Stone Mountain area when I first moved here. Actually, I lived in the Decatur area, then Stone Mountain. And I could just tell you that I noticed it, as a homeowner, I noticed that services were very different in my area versus the rest of DeKalb County. I noticed it. I noticed the education, the quality of the education was different. I noticed it. I literally had to move my children to the north, a little further north, a little further in, just to kind of make sure that they had a quality public education. I couldn't afford private school for 2 kids, so I wanted to be sure that they had the best public school education that I could provide. And I knew I kind of had to move a little further to the north to kind of get that. So, and I moved into a great school district, that North Lake community, and middle school, elementary school, middle school, and high school. It was great. But that doesn't exist in all of DeKalb County. We need to really kind of have those hard conversations and talk about what that divide is, because for you to have to, you're the president of this new alliance, because there's problems that exist. And we as a county, we have to start addressing it collectively, not just your problems are your problems and our problems are our problems, but how do we solve this thing collectively? We are one, DeKalb, right?
That is correct. And so I want to jump in. And I have been in South DeKalb now for 4 years. And I have talked to many people throughout South DeKalb. And a lot of people say, hey, there's a race division here in this county. And so when people say that, I ask them, explain that to me. Tell me what you're talking about. And of course, they talk about the services. If you look at the services in North DeKalb compared to the services in South DeKalb. If you look at the schools in North DeKalb compared to the South DeKalb. And my question is, if the people know this, why have we not gotten together and said, hey, wait a minute. We're paying the same tax dollars. We want the same service. So I firmly and believe that in order to cure something, let's say I have a sore on my arm and I keep putting a Band-Aid over it. Mm-hmm. And every day I don't put any ointment on, but just a Band-Aid, or I don't pay any attention. But guess what? It's not going away. It's going to be there. I have to take that Band-Aid off and deal with the sore. If that means going to the doctor and getting some antibodies or, getting a prescription. But for many years, including our elected officials, they have ignored the problem that there is a race problem in our county. And some people say, well, Mr. Burrell, most of the CEOs or the commissioners have been our colored people. Well, if that's the case, then we should be asking, why is all the money going north? There has to be a reason. So South DeKalb Community Alliance has said, hey, wait, stop, pump the brakes. We want to take the Band-Aid off and look at the root of the problem and deal with the sore. We want to be the doctor. And we want the residents of South DeKalb to come to us, and we're going to be the doctor. And I'm not saying we're going to have the solution to every problem. I'm not saying that. Because the solution has to come from the people. When the people recognize that there's a problem, then we all can deal with it. And this is what I'm saying to the people of South DeKalb. Yes, there is a problem. There is a difference between North DeKalb and South DeKalb. And we have to get to the root of the problem. And the root is to talk about the issue and find a solution. And the solution is to bring both sides together. And that's what South DeKalb Community Alliance is going to do. Well, how you going to get it done? We're going to get it done in 2018.
Woo! David, you live smack in the middle of it all. Like, you're not in North DeKalb, you're not necessarily in South DeKalb, you're like right there in the middle.
I'm a couple of miles north of downtown Decatur, and I lived there now for almost 20 years. And I must say that I have been not plugged into the local politics, except around the issue of Walmart putting in the new store, on
Is that
Church
Church Street?
and North Decatur Road.
Yes, North Decatur Road.
There I got involved with a local, community group that was opposed to Walmart putting in the store, because we saw that the traffic density and congestion in the area would be, create problems and make for a lower quality of life. But I did not really. I did not see. Now that group was mostly made up of people on Medlock Road, if you know where Medlock is, and it's a curious mix on Medlock Road because there are people, older residents who are white working class, who live there for 30, 40 plus years, and then there are gentrifiers that are coming in because the area is right near Emory. And so it was a funny mix of people, but it's heavily white. And so one of the things that I found was that there were really, and we're talking 3 years ago, 4 years ago. One of the things that I found was that people were not very aware or alert to the fact that that Walmart was going to bring in jobs, and that a lot of the folks who might get those jobs would be African American. So there was a lack of solidarity, a lack of connectedness between the two communities over the question of of whether Walmart was a good thing or a bad thing, right? So I think that now, of course, that whole area has there's acres and acres of new construction that's going on in there, and man, I don't know what's going to happen. That whole area is going to be really, really messed up. They're already putting in new lights and traffic lights, and I think the traffic is going to get really, really hard to handle.
And this is the opposite of what happened in South Dekalb, where Walmart left the community.
Right. And I'm glad you mentioned that because I traveled throughout DeKalb County, and I noticed I do a lot of traveling in Dunwoody, Peachtree Corners, Dorville, even Brookhaven. And I think I mentioned this to some people. All these cities you see that are coming up or have been around have not been around as long as South DeKalb. And the question is, how is it that these cities are forming and they're getting grade A businesses? But when you come to South DeKalb, nobody's moving to South DeKalb. No business. Actually, the businesses are moving out. And so when we look at that, we must first ask the question, why is this business leaving? And a lot of times we want to blame the business. But we don't look at the root of what could possibly be happening. And as I mentioned before, there's a Publix leaving, and there is a Kroger's that's closing. Now Walmart is leaving, and so
the Walmart on Memorial.
No, the Walmart that's on Panola and Covington Highway, and then Sam's out in Stonecrest closed.
Yeah,
and so my team of people, we called around to some of the stores and to the corporate office, and I'm sure many commissioners and other people did, and we get a story that, well, the theft is too high. We have inside theft and outside theft, but we never talk about that. We only look at the store and say, "What you leaving us?" So there's another storefront that's going to be there for years, but we don't talk about why the stores are leaving. Is it theft? It possibly could be theft. Is it crime? It could be crime. We have to look at why stores are leaving, because no store is going to come to an area that's crime ridden. We have to look at that and say, wait a minute, Why would I bring $1 billion company to an area where your crime is 80%?
Well, when you have 4 stores that leave, though, you didn't have it was 4, right?
There's actually 4 stores. We had a Kroger's that closed.
A Publix.
We have a Publix that's closing in March. We have Sam's closed, and now the Walmart on Covington and Panola is closing.
But it seems like it's more attractive for them from a business perspective for them to go into neighborhoods like where you are. Like they are trying to have a whole different, it's either a different marketing or a different demographic, customer base that they're trying to attract.
Yeah.
So they're like trying to maybe it's what do you think, David?
I think it's white supremacy. I mean, that's what I think it is. I mean, this stuff about crime is bullshit. As far as as far as I can tell, it becomes an excuse anytime that they feel like their customer base is just too low end, for the business. And I was convinced that Walmart was moving to Scott Boulevard and North Decatur Road because they wanted to attract Emory students, as their customers. And when you get
they don't necessarily shop Walmart. They may go to Target or
no, it's the other thing was that they were going to put in a MARTA line, in that direction. And actually, given what happened at the Emory corner, where the supermarket closed, that Walmart is the closest supermarket now to the Emory students. There are 5,000 undergraduates and 10,000 graduate students at Emory, and these are folks who are from many of them, particularly the undergraduates, are from upper middle class backgrounds, and their parents would not be caught dead in a Walmart. But with the students going in, and you start habituating them to seeing Walmart as a place where that's kind of normal for them to transact, to buy stuff.
Right.
I think that's one of the long range strategies for the corporation. But so
they're wanting to move out of the urban neighborhoods, into more of a different demographic with a different customer base.
Yeah, I think so. I think that they want Walmart's image to be one, that of so-called middle class customers.
And let me say this, right quick. You just mentioned about MARTA, how close to be to the MARTA, and in South DeKalb, they just cut MARTA services.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah,
they just cut MARTA services, but they increased the service at Eastlake.
Mm-hmm.
So it's not just stores.
Maybe they're saying we don't want you in like white supremacy. We don't want you in and out.
And that's when we have to join together. See, we can sit at the kitchen table and talk among ourselves every day, and then when we leave the house, nothing is said. We have to take the kitchen table to the community table. And we have to tell our elected officials, why is the bus service getting cut? Why are the stores leaving? We need to bring to them these different issues. And when elected officials cannot answer the question, we need to be asking, why are you in office? Because you're not serving the community. If you are on the job and your manager says, I need you to do A, B, C, and D. And you say, I'm not doing A, B, and C. I will do D. You're incompetent. And they're going to get rid of you. But we keep electing the same officials after each election. Then we complain about them. Well, they ain't doing this. They ain't doing that. Why, when the MARTA service was cut, a lady called me. She said, Mr. Burrell, they're cutting the MARTA service. I said, well, did you go to the MARTA meeting? She said, yes, I did. I said, how many people was there? She said, I went to one center where MARTA was hosting a meeting, and there were 5 people there. But guess what? More than 5 people ride the MARTA train in the bus. So until we show up And sometimes you have to show up and show out. But we have to show up. And if you don't show up, why would I keep my service in your area? So I'm going to take the service from you and put it in a place where I can get my dollars. Now, you may, once again, be at the kitchen table complaining, and when you leave the house, nothing more has been said. It has to become an outcry to the point where it stops. If you remember the boycott back in Montgomery, Alabama, the people got together and say, we're not taking this anymore. You have to put a stamp on what you want done. And yes, there are going to be some who will fall on the wayside. But if you do not make your voices known, don't complain when they start taking the things from you.
And I understand, because you're trying to hold the community accountable. Like, this is not just them, it's you too. So I get it.
So we can't always put the blame on the elected officials or these companies. If we're not doing our part, well, what is our part? We have to hold ourselves accountable. We have to want better. When you want quality, you're going to get it. You're going to seek it. When you want something better, if your son or daughter is in school and they have homework and they come home and they own the video game, you should say, well, no. I need you to do that homework because I want more from you. Because I need you to go somewhere where I can't go. I need to start building this road, and I need you to continue on building it, not for yourself, but for those that's coming after you. Well, guess what? We've stopped building the road. And when you stop building the road, we don't move forward. We stop at the line and we look and we wish and we think, and then we say, I'm good. So when other races or communities continue to build, we get upset. And we say, well, they doing this. Don't be mad at them, because guess what? We stopped.
Yeah, but Samson, I think that when big corporations like Publix and Kroger and Walmart are pulling out of areas, like that, that's something very different from people not, not getting their kids to do their homework. I mean, that's something that's kind of like, they are redlining the area. I mean, you know what I mean by redlining. They're redlining the area, and that's what happened with housing, and suburbanization that was overwhelmingly white. When you do that kind of thing, you are when corporations do that kind of thing, they're actually creating the conditions for failure. They're taking jobs out of the area. They're taking access to healthy food, out of the area. Access to products that people need, household goods and all of this other stuff. They're removing it. They're taking it out of the area, and the business decisions that they're making are have a much wider impact on the community than simply than simply their corporate decision making process, right?
Okay, and I do agree with that, but I also want to say this, and you brought up a good point. A business coming to the community, and they're there 10, 15, 20 years, and then one day they just abruptly leave. And of course, you put all these people on the unemployment line. So my question goes back to, when a business comes into the community and then they decide to abruptly leave, what do the community do? Well, when do we not only meet with that company in their front office and ask questions, why are you taking this business up? Because guess what? there are people who use this business on a daily basis. They need this business.
Mm-hmm.
What is it in this community which is going to make you take this business out the community? And of course, here's a perfect example. When Publix announced that they were closing their store at South Harrison and Covington Highway, I called their corporate office and spoke to some people. And the story I got was, well, we've been there for 18 years. And for 18 years, we have lost $1 million a year. And I said, you lost $1 million for 18 years? And y'all was still up and running for 18 years?
Yeah. Uh-huh.
You should have closed after the first year.
Yeah.
If you lost $1 million. So then somebody said, no, well, there's a theft problem. Or when people come to shop, they don't grocery shop. They buy this item and that item.
So basically, they're saying they're not making enough money.
Exactly.
Well, here's go ahead.
So then my question is, so then Publix say, well, we have until March, so you all can shop here until March. Now, this is Mr. Burrell speaking. So this is an independent voice. I'll say, don't go to Publix. If you think your business is too good for the community, I say, this is Mr. Burrell speaking, take it. If someone tells you, I don't want your money, don't beg them to take it. Take it. What we need to do in the community is find, there are businesses in our community that we don't support, that sell the stuff that Walmart have. Why not go there and support it? Oh, they don't have good customer service. Then demand good customer service. The floor is nasty. Make them clean the floor. There has to be a reaction, but we want to sit back and no. If someone tells me, Mr. Burrell, I don't want your money, you know what I say? Good. I will spend it somewhere else, where I know I would be appreciated, and so would my money.
Yeah, well, I really do agree with you in part that there are, particularly in the African American community, there have been cooperative ventures that go back to the right after the Civil War. There have been co-ops that cooperative farming and self-help programs that Black people have done. It's historically, it's really a very common thing for Black people to do because they couldn't get any outside help. So, but here, I think the difference is that you have a corporation that comes in like Publix, and particularly like Walmart, and they have so much power in that situation that they are able to do things without having any repercussions. I mean, they're making a corporate decision, right? Mm-hmm. They're making a corporate decision. Publix, maybe is making a corporate decision, but the impact on the community, is goes far beyond just simply, them making a corporate decision. They are not being held accountable for what they're, for the decisions that they're making, and that's
corporate responsibility.
Yeah, well, and that's the. In other words, what's happening here is what happens under capitalism, almost all the time, which is that the corporation does not take into account the costs that everybody else is bearing for their corporate decisions.
True.
Okay, they're thinking about profit, and they're not just thinking about profit; they're actually thinking about rate of profit, right? And so they're not necessarily in competition just with Kroger. They're in competition with for investment capital, right? Mm-hmm. And they have to show a rate of return that will attract capital, right?
Correct.
And so they can't simply do good business. They can't simply make a profit. They have to maximize the profit. So in doing that kind of profit maximization, they decide, well, if we shut this store down in this neighborhood and we open another one, in spite of the fact that it's going to cost us, $5, $10, $15 million to make that transition, where our rate of profit is going to go up, right?
And that's why it was probably a better move to close in South DeKalb and open it up in this new area with this new demographic.
Yeah.
And let me say this to that. Yeah. Not to cut you off, but let me say this to that.
Yeah.
As I mentioned, I have traveled throughout South DeKalb and talked to many people. And a lot of white people who I've spoken with have been there 20, 30, 40 years.
Mm-hmm.
And they always say, well, I remember 30 years ago, I could go down Memorial Drive and do all my shopping and do this and do that.
Uh-huh.
The area has changed. Mm-hmm. So the income that was there 30 years ago is not the same income there today.
Yeah.
So, and then not only that, when these stores start closing, I start to do a little research. And let's say we have a 15-mile circus, a radius. Okay. In that one circle, you have almost 10 stores. Well, we can't be, yes, I do understand people go to the store every day, but you have so many grocery stores in one area. You have, for instance, South Harrison and Memorial, you had a Kroger's. Across the street, you had a Walmart. You go 3 or 4 miles down Memorial, you have another Walmart and another Kroger's and a Plaza. You go down Columbia, you have a Wayfield store. You go down South Harrison, you have a Kroger's at Redan and South Harrison. You go down some more, you have a Publix at North Harrison and Covington. You go down Covington to Pinole, you have another Walmart. Mm-hmm. You continue to go down South Harrison to Western Chapel, you have another Kroger's. So you have all these stores in this one area, which 30 years ago, the geographics was different compared to what it is today. So, of course, if the people in that area 30 years ago had a high income and now that income is no longer there, why would you need 10 stores?
So you saying the decision was warranted, like they should have left?
Well, in my opinion, what board, commission board, city council board would let so many grocers move in one area? See, that's the first question we should ask.
They have no control over it.
But a city council and a planning council and a commission board can say, wait a minute, we are, for instance, there is an organization in South DeKalb that has committed to no more gas stations and liquor stores. Mm-hmm. Well, if in a 15-mile space, I got 25 gas stations, and somebody said, well, I got one more. No, I got 25 already. What more is going to do? So if I have 8 grocery stores and then 2 more come, what's going to be so different for the 2 that's coming in? We already have 8 here. Mm-hmm. And so now you are competing for business. Because guess what? Mm-hmm. Whether people want to believe it, Walmart may have cheaper prices. So the same stuff I can get at Kroger, I love M&Ms. I love M&Ms. So if I went to Kroger's and my M&Ms cost $3, and somebody said, hey, Walmart got the same M&Ms for $1.75. Guess what? I go to Walmart.
Well, but Samsom, M&M's aside, I mean,
you might have lost some people with the M&M store.
Well, I'm saying, but if one store is cheaper,
let me tell you something. I'm as far as my shopping is concerned, right? I go to different stores, for different items. So I do around. I mean, I've got a Kroger's near me. I've got now a Sprouts, this new store, and a Publix, and then there's Rainbow Foods, my favorite, Rainbow Foods on Claremont and North Decatur Road, and I go to all of these places. I do shopping in a circuit, because I can get fresh ground peanut butter pure peanut butter from Rainbow Foods. I bring my own container, and it's cheaper than even the crap, Skippy with all the sugar in it and everything, peanut butter. And so I go there every 5 or 10 days or so. I make a stop at Rainbow, and I pick up my stuff that I get from Rainbow. Publix has certain things that are cheaper. Their salsa always is on sale.
We get it, David. You make your rounds. David is caught up in his grocery shopping right here on Facebook Live. He and Samson with the M&Ms.
But anyway, what I'm saying is that one thing I'm questioning. I got really caught up in
his grocery list. He was making his grocery list, y'all. Yeah, I know David quite well.
I was thinking about, I could stop off at the Sprouts.
Yeah, I told you he's making his grocery list, everybody.
So, anyway, one of the things that's happening from 30 years ago is the population has increased enormously. Mm-hmm. So you would think that there would be more customers and and more need for the stores. So I don't see why there are stores that are closing. That it really doesn't make a whole lot of sense.
I think it goes back to your earlier point about the redlining. I do believe that.
That's what I think. Yeah,
I do believe that's
income has changed.
Yes.
If you look at income from 30 years ago, and if you look at how South Dekalb is set up now compared to 30 years ago, there's a lot more Section 8. Now, am I a Section 8 bastard? No, but the truth is
the income levels.
Right. If in my subdivision 30 years ago, if the median income was $175,000, and now 30 years later that median income is 30, guess what? That's a huge loss.
Yeah. Yes, but 175. I don't know.
It was an example.
Right, it's an example. But I mean, if you lose,
let's say if it went from 50,000 real dollar terms to 30,000 real dollar terms,
that's a huge chunk.
Right, it's a big shift in the income of the area. But then, why was that happening? What are the causes for that? Lowering of income levels.
And let's be specific to DeKalb County. Let's bring it full circle with our conversation. Let's be specific to this South DeKalb, North DeKalb, Central DeKalb. There are just huge differences in our communities in the South and in the Central and in the North. There's a huge difference. I mean, you literally can drive from South DeKalb to North DeKalb, and you can see this the economy just is different. I mean, you get further north, you think you might be in, Atlanta in the city or something so. What is this?
To be honest with you, I think that we are living in a time where here's a perfect example. I was in a conversation with a lady, and she said, "Mr. Burrell, I think you're jealous of Dunwoody because they are moving forward." And I said, "No, I'm not jealous of them. If people see an opportunity that's going to help benefit their community and their livelihood, I say take it. I would not tell you, don't do that. But at the same time, we need to be taking those same steps, those same opportunities, whether it's with the community, whether it's with tax dollars, whether it's with the school system. People in South DeKalb need to be asking the question, why is that the schools north are more funded and get better than the schools south? Well, this is a truth here. When you go north and there's a parent-teacher conference, guess what? The schools are full. You go south and there's a parent-teacher conference, you're lucky to get 1 or 2 parents. But let's have a football game. Let's have a dance. So our priorities are not the same. So once you change your priority, once your child education becomes important, when I was going to school, that was a must in my parents' mind.
Yeah.
It wasn't Mom, I don't feel good today. You going to school. When you come home from school, I got homework, I'll do it later. No, you do it now. You have to say, because my parents said, I want more for you. And we have to set that standard. We have to say, you know what? Johnny doing good. Okay, good. But guess what? I need Matthew to do good as well. And I need to push him to the level. So we have to take some responsibility.
Well, I would, I'm troubled by that because I think there are so many political power structure, economic disadvantages, for South DeKalb. The power, that is unevenly distributed, so that the access to the decision makers is unevenly distributed, and it is very clear that the message that you are sending to South DeKalb residents, mostly African American, right? People who are in North DeKalb have to listen to with a different set of ears.
And that's my point.
Right?
That's going to be my point for the evening, as far as the political part of it. Like, and I think that the reason why I wanted to do these conversations, and the reason why I think this particular conversation is so important, is because I really want my district, the northern part of DeKalb County, to hear what's going on in South DeKalb. Because what's going on in South DeKalb, it affects all DeKalb. And we can't be blind to it as a community in the north, that these things aren't happening, because they are. And it affects us as a whole. And I think that's a lot of that is policy. A lot of that is the elected officials. There's not a true balance in power, And
let me say this, and going back to what you were and just talking about. So there are many people in South DeKalb who feel they haven't had a voice. And they keep getting the same script. There's a song by Whitney Houston. It's called Different Days, Same Script, or something like that. But when you are
just don't sing it, Sam.
But when you have elected officials that tell you, we're going to do this, and we're going to do this, and we're going to do this, and then people get hyped up like, yeah, and it doesn't. Then over time,
you get cynical,
and you be like, okay, whatever.
Nothing changes.
Right. But when election time comes, the same people that we're complaining about, guess what we do? We go back and re-elect them into office. And then we complain about them. Well, so we need to stop. We need to educate ourselves on who's in office, what their record is, how it affects the community. And if my agenda doesn't agree with yours, guess what? It's time to go. And I'm gonna say this, Devil, just speak.
You're gonna let me speak, y'all.
Oh, I'm sorry. I tell people all the time that my father was into politics. And I have always said this. When a person that has been into politics 20, 30, 40 years, guess what? The time has changed. It's no longer about the community. It's about you now. Because guess what? 30 years ago, your ideas may have changed. And when you hold on to a seat 20, 30, 40 years, the area has changed.
And I do believe in term limits.
So why would you still have the same mindset from 30 years ago and your community has changed? But then we go and vote for them again.
I believe in term limits, and I think we need to initiate term limits. I just want to say that. Samson allowed me to speak, y'all.
You got the floor. But,
well, here's what I'm thinking about, and what I'm kind of trying to raise as a kind of a message or warning for people in North DeKalb, in other words, white people, that listening to what you are saying, a lot of people who think and act white, which is the way that I describe what's going on, are going to say to themselves, I'm off the hook.
Stay there with that. Can I tell them that you're a Republican? Samson is a Republican, y'all. Let's take it off.
But that doesn't mean I'm a Donald Trump supporter.
That doesn't mean he's a Trump supporter. But Samson is a Republican. So his ideology,
a moderate Republican.
A moderate Republican.
So let's get some clarity.
David is a Democrat. So this is well, he's somewhere in the middle, y'all. No, closer to this side.
I don't know what to say about that. I'm to the left of the Democratic Party. Let me put it that way.
It's progressive.
But I do hear, I do want to. I think this is a real opportunity for European American folks to listen to what you are saying with a different set of ears, and not that set of ears that's thinking and acting white and saying what he's saying is means that
y'all go do it. It's your problem. You go do it.
Problem.
Yes.
What I need for them to hear is okay. There are people in South DeKalb who are taking responsibility. What is my responsibility
to them who are taking responsibility?
Yeah. So if in other words, if we have an issue of inequality, of unequal representation, we're not just separate, we're unequal.
Correct.
Then it is the responsibility of those folks who are on the other side of that inequality divide to say, this is unjust.
Right.
Not only is it unjust and unfair, but it actually has a negative impact on my life. If we
say that part again, it is unjust, it is unfair, has a negative impact on my life. He is speaking to North DeKalb. It's unjust, it's unfair, and it has a negative impact on my life. He is speaking to North DeKalb.
Yes.
All right.
Now, here's an interesting example of that. Julian Bond gave a talk that I heard. This is like 5 or 6 years ago. And Bond was saying, he's a dean, an elder statesman of the civil rights movement, nowadays. And he ended up his speech by talking about why it is in the interests of whites, European Americans, to have Black and Hispanic kids have a good education, right?
Mm-hmm.
And he said, well, who's going to pay your Social Security when you get old? If you have a bunch of people who don't know, who don't have skills and who don't have high levels of productivity, and we have all of these elders that are around, and everybody's working for minimum wage, right? Who's going to pay your Social Security? What we need to do is to increase the productivity, the skill levels and the productivity of labor so that we can afford to maintain the Social Security and not do what the Republicans say, which is raise the age, of Social Security and take away benefits from people, or squeeze them, squeeze older folks in that way with Medicare and lowering Medicare and Social Security, or privatizing it, or whatever the newest scheme is. But if we have an educated, productive, highly productive and highly skilled workforce, that doesn't mean going to college for everybody.
True.
Technical skills, the way that Germany has technical programs, then we're going to be able to afford to have people retire and live a decent life.
And this is why it's important for North DeKalb to be concerned about South DeKalb.
Education and skill levels and the employment rates and the sewer problems and everything else that's going on, because it is a shared fate.
Right.
We're not.
That's like, yes, we are other.
We're all,
the whole boat.
The whole is not gonna, leave the.
Too. So have to be, as a community, as Senate District 40, we have to be mindful of what's happening around us and what's happening in rural Georgia. Like, we have to be mindful that we're in this together.
Yeah.
And that's, I go back to what I say. My job as a legislator will be to make sure that we do good for all people in all of Georgia, and not just make decisions that are just good for my district. I had a gentleman to sit me down, and somebody told me I needed to tell this story. So in 2014, I had a gentleman, a Jewish gentleman, that invited me into his home, sat me down, wonderful man. He said to me, Tamara, we don't need you. And I just looked at him like, you brought me to your house to tell me this? Like, you guys don't need me? And he said, we have a great city council. Just look around you. We do well. Our city is doing quite well. And I carried that for 2 election cycles. 2014, I carried that. 2016, I carried that. 2018, I now understand what he was saying. I get it, what he was saying. He was telling me that they may not need me here, but what I understand is that the world needs Senate District 40. The rest of Georgia needs Senate District 40. South Dekalb needs Senate District 40. Like, the shift of the need is, they don't need us here, but
you need Greater Dekalb.
Yes.
Right. And see, and that's a good point, which is the reason why we have to come together as a people. Now, what do I mean by that? We have to no one is going to agree with everyone 100%.
Mm-hmm.
I may say something that you may disagree with. Good. And you may say something that I disagree with. That's life. But we have to put aside those petty differences.
And race. We have to put that aside.
And look at the overall picture.
Yes.
And deal with it.
Yes.
We have to say, in order for us to move, because we can't move forward as a state, as a county, until everybody comes to the table, and we have to point out what the issues are. We have to address the issues and let people feel that they belong to this community.
That's right.
And that's the reason why, I'm going to go back to this, South Dekalb Community Alliance has been formed. Because we want people to feel this is your organization. This is your voice. So when you call the office, there will be an office, we're going to address those issues and not push you off. A lot of people in South Dekalb say, well, I can't get in contact with my commissioner. They won't come to the meeting. We can't, for instance, I always give this joke. When you're in South Dekalb, you have to ride what they call bumper cars and dodge potholes. But go to North Dekalb, you can sit back and enjoy the ride. Why is that? Why is it I can't enjoy the ride on South Dekalb? We have to stop, find out what the issues are, and deal with them. And not just point fingers at someone else. We must also, what am I doing to help bring this community about? Because we can sit back and point fingers all day.
Yeah, but I still go back to this thing about getting the streets fixed, potholes and all of that kind of thing. That is a really one of the measures of a community's political clout, right? Because they got these the what do you call it, the asphalt trucks going out, and they have to decide which roads they're going to repave. And I was a runner for 40 years, and I couldn't believe that there were some streets that got paved, and
didn't need paving.
Didn't need paving.
But they'll pave that before they won't.
Right.
Before they'll
before the need, the streets that have the crying need. And then when you talk about that in connection with mass transit, for instance, having bus routes and I mean, not just the the MARTA lines, which cost $1 billion a mile or whatever it is, but bus routes and jitneys, things like that, that could make a tremendous difference in both congestion and in people getting to work, right? To not have to own a car. I just listened to this lawmakers, about the Georgia, what do you call it?
The Assembly,
Georgia legislature.
The legislature.
And there were 3 representatives from Atlanta, representatives from the House, and one of them is this woman Republican, and two Democrats, and they agreed with each other about the need for mass transit. One of the one Democrat, white Democrat, David Dreyer, right? Mm-hmm. He said, "Look, we need new people coming into this area, new young people, with high skills and everything. They don't want to ride. They don't want to drive cars, right. And so when you get that, so if you're going to attract young, people into Atlanta that have all new ideas and new skills and high levels of education, you got to provide mass transit. And it's got to go into South Dekalb, and it's got to come up here into North Dekalb. You may be right about the roads being smooth, but they're choked. That people are, they're bumper to bumper.
Right, and let me say this. Here. Well, when I moved to Georgia 6 years ago, I lived in Marietta, Cobb County. And the first year I was in Cobb County, there was something on the ballot about extending rail service to Roswell, Sandy Springs. And of course, I didn't know too much about Georgia politics. And there were people on the highway with signs. They did not want to extend it to Sandy Springs and Roswell. And one day I was talking to a lady. I said, "Why don't you all not want rails?" And she said, "Well, we don't want the crime coming out here."
Yeah, crime.
That's a lie that has been told. No one is going to get on a train from Atlanta and ride to Sandy Springs and rob you, and then get back on the train and come back home. That's not going to happen. Yeah. We have to first in life. I'm going to tell you a story right quick if I have time.
Yeah, we got about 3 minutes, y'all. We're going to wrap it up in just a second.
Well, my grandmother used to always say, son, when it's raining outside and the sun is out, that means the devil is whooping his wife. And for years, I believed that. When it was raining outside and the sun out, I would run into the house because the devil was with his wife. One day I was on the phone with a client, and I was outside talking, and it started raining. I said, "Oh, I have to go inside the building." She said, "Why?" I said, "Because it's raining and the sun is out." I said, "Because the devil is with his wife." And the lady said, "Mr. Burrell, I've never heard that before." And I called my sister and told her. She said, "Sam, that was nothing. It was a mistruth. We have to stop telling the lies and start telling the truth."
Well, y'all see why.
And in Yiddish, that is called a Bubameiser. That is a grandmother's tale. So you just told the Bubameiser.
But guess what? I heard it too. My grandmother said it to me as well. So you're not the only one. And yes, our audience members have heard it as well.
We have to start getting to the truth and do away.
And it's and it's not only a code language that like people are in on the code, they're fooling themselves with that language. So it's really important to I'm not racist. I don't want crime in the area, right?
As if all black people commit crime.
Right.
Yeah, well, let's break it down. Let's deconstruct. As you're saying, somebody's going to get on a train and drive and rob your house
and all the way back
take the television set
on the train.
On the train, right?
And pass all these people, and nobody say, "Why do you have a
TV on the train
on your back?"
Well, I think these conversations are very important. I just want to thank you guys for joining us here on this Facebook Live. It's always a pleasure to have my friend David.
A Democrat and a Republican.
A Democrat. Look, shake your hands, y'all. That shows you how I am going to reach across the aisle and make things happen. Be ready for that. So thank you again for watching us on this broadcast. Again, I am Tamara Johnson-Shealey, candidate for Senate District 40. Look forward to seeing you soon. Have a good night.
Bye.
Bye-bye.